Hello, fellow souls. You have now reached the channel of peace and gratitude. I am Anais Soul, and this is Living with Soul, where we discuss all things transformation, from victim to victor, one thought at a time. So, I have been visualizing a lot lately, and I'm ready to come out. I am a spiritual psychologist and a writer. And that fills me up because for so long I've been trying to encapsulate what it is that I do. And as much as I don't like labels for this very reason, it's helpful to give me a frame of reference so that I can point to the common theme of my every action. The reason why I love spiritual psychology is because I have a background in psychology, and more importantly, I understand the importance of diving into the psyche of the mind as it relates to this physical body that we inhabit in each lifetime. The thing that's always been missing for me is that connection to our divinity. Where does that come into play? How do we merge the two? Because they are related. And I don't believe that there can be one without the other. At least in this realm. So that being said, another thing that I really appreciate about the two is it takes you from a place of disempowerment to a place of empowerment. It takes you back. It makes you return to that inner connection. In another video, I think, I want to discuss how psychology, albeit helpful, useful in certain circumstances, has become a tool for people to lean on. It's a crutch. It's a way to explain oneself without having to take responsibility. And depending on where you are in your journey, that can be tough to hear. I know at one point it was for me. But ultimately, if you believe that you are truly powerful, if you believe that the inherent power of your soul far exceeds your dreams, then you're going to know that this is true. And that's what brings me back to the spiritual aspect. The part of me that allows me to sit in the comfort of knowing that my soul is eternal, that my soul is peaceful, and that I am powerful. And in so doing, I return to that connection with the all that is, whichever word you want to use. And honestly, that is the missing key that helped make meditation so much more of a focus in my life. But I digress. Not the topic of today's video. And we're back. So, change in environment. Still figuring out the setup, and yeah, that's basically it. So today I wanted to discuss the Palestine war, not it directly, but more so the responses that we're observing and experiencing during this time. So I gave you the background about spiritual psychology. So now, watching this, you will know that when we dive into topics, we're diving in from the soul conscious perspective, or at least with that intention in mind. So when things come up that are triggering, take note of that. because those are our largest indicators that there are wounds that we need to resolve. And from a spiritual, soul-conscious standpoint, all I'm really pointing to is accountability, is that responsibility that's required when we look at ourselves from a spiritual standpoint. This isn't gonna resonate with just anyone. That's why I want to give that kind of a background, because this, depending on who's hearing it, might sound completely foreign. And if that's you, that's okay. But anyways, I wanted to touch on this topic because I feel like during a time such as this, it might feel sort of backwards to be focusing on something like your inner peace. That's the level of programming that we have on this planet anyways. Obviously, intuitively, yes, in the midst of chaos, you want to focus on your peace. But because we're so far removed from what our peace even looks like, it might sound completely counterintuitive. So it's important for us to dive into topics like this because they allow us to go into the shadow, and not just into it, but through it. Like the past few years, the pandemic, it has taught me that the importance of going into the shadow is so that you lose the illusion, so that you can ground yourself in truth, not hide behind the ego. The ego, which represents desire and expectations, attachment. When we get lost in those body conscious facets, those body conscious aspects, then we become super attached to the material, to the physical, forgetting our soul consciousness, forgetting our connection to the divine, forgetting the larger picture that would allow us to move through challenges with flow, with ease. And that's why it's important to discuss these kind of topics, because it's important to be able to know that there is darkness in this world. And also, it doesn't end there. There is a natural cycle, there is a natural process to life. And when we are rooted in that understanding, when we are rooted in the knowing that this is not all that matters, then it's easier to have compassion and also look at everything from a place of neutrality, from a place of detachment, because you understand the role that each person, each event plays. So yes, on a personal note, this topic was triggered by the various reactions of those who felt as though people who weren't speaking up about this issue didn't care. It isn't anything new, that sort of patterning. A major political or world event happens, and a subsection of society chooses to focus on it and make everyone who isn't focusing on it out to be evil. It isn't a new phenomenon, it's something we see all the time. But with this particular event, it's become such a visceral topic. You see the energy shifting physical characteristics. You see how much pain and suffering people are experiencing, literally and vicariously. And it becomes something that just needs to be spoken about, just so there can be some diffusion, hopefully, of that energy. So, yeah, a lot of people are upset, and understandably. Love to each and every soul that has been lost or otherwise suffered as a result of all of the conflict that occurs in this world, and specifically in this war. And yet, it's interesting to me how during these points of time where we need to come together collectively, what society tends to do is split further apart. In my studies of Raja Yoga, we discussed this term called entropy. And entropy basically refers to that law of physics, which states that over time, energy loses power. And essentially, the world goes through a cycle of entropy, but gradually over time, the world loses power. Its inhabitants lose power. They devolve. They move away from the purity that they initially had and slowly become more and more corrupted. With this background, once you fully understand this, and there's a whole bunch of other steps that need to come first, you can see how each event that has occurred played its rightful role in the necessary evolution and cycle of the world. Now, in order to come to terms with that idea, one of the things that you would have to explore is true forgiveness, is understanding how in your own personal life you can begin to let go of the energetic hold that others have on you as a result of you believing that they are the cause of your suffering. If you can find it within yourself to forgive someone who has hurt you, to let go of the pain that someone has brought you, you are freeing yourself from those shackles. And there's so many ways to do this. It's gonna have to be another video. I'm trying to keep track of these things because I wanna make sure, we keep up a routine. But yes, if you are able to learn how to forgive, you free yourself from the shackles of seeing the other as other, seeing them separate from yourself. And you can begin to see your connection when you are able to reflect on how this person's flaws, or whatever it is that caused the situation between you two, how those very flaws exist within you. Like, how much compassion could one develop if they simply were able to look at someone and say, okay, you were being rude to me, but you know what? Sometimes I'm rude to other people. I'm not saying this to excuse your behavior, but I am saying this to understand that we are each souls, and we are each going through our own evolutionary journey. And by way of entropy, we have maybe forgotten our inner purity. I see you. How much more freeing could that be? Another thing that would be important to understand is that all that we witness on the collective level, on the world stage, is removed from what's natural. It's made up. It's placed on the world stage, often for an agenda, often for the purpose of harvesting energy. Think about it. If you've ever heard about that experiment with water, where I think it was water, maybe it was a plant, you basically speak good things to a cup of water, and then to another cup of water, you speak bad things. And when placed under the microscope, the composition, the chemical structure of the water droplets were vastly different. If energy can work at that molecular level, what could energy do on a global one? When millions of souls are in a state of panic and fear and anger and frustration and pain, ultimately, and constantly, what could that do energetically to one soul? What impact could that have karmically? What impact could that have on the world? And the thing about it is, these issues only tend to be focused on when we are told to focus on them. When we are programmed with media that says, you should be worried about this, you should be upset about this. There is constant suffering on this planet. At this point in time, there is no organization that isn't corrupt, that isn't tied to some other organization or doing some sort of unethical business that isn't corrupt. And yet, we pick and choose when we want to be upset about certain issues. We pick and choose when we want to boycott certain companies. And we pick and choose when other souls are worthy of our respect. That's hypocrisy. That's inconsistent. That's swaying with the wind. As we go through these chaotic times, the most valuable gift that you could give yourself is to have control over your own mind, to be able to witness, to observe, and to detach from events in your life, from even other people in your life, so as you can clear your karma and enjoy peace from now and every day moving forward. Like, there are so many good things to focus on in life. And social media has done a really great job, because it's also media. It's done a really great job of making our primary focus the pain and the suffering of others and of ourselves. And while this isn't a video that's, love and light and saying that pain is fictitious, in a sense, it is. It's really a matter of what you focus on. But I say all of this to say, going back full circle, spiritual psychology allows you to take that radical responsibility, to choose a different frequency, to choose a different channel, so that what most believe to be unattainable can truly become your experience. That's what I have for you today. Love to all of you. Peace to all of you. And we'll talk soon. Om Shanti.